The bright lights of the dance studio always made Alex feel alive. He spun, his body light and graceful, before landing perfectly next to Mark. Mark, with his easy smile and strong arms, was Alex's dance partner. They were practicing for the biggest competition of their lives, a national ballroom dance event that felt both exciting and terrifying. Alex had known Mark for years. They met in high school dance class, two kids who just clicked on the dance floor. Mark was straight, always had been, and currently had a girlfriend named Sarah. Alex, on the other hand, was gay, a fact he'd been open about since college. He'd learned long ago to keep his heart safe, especially around Mark. Their friendship was too important to mess up with silly crushes. They were a perfect team, a whirlwind of motion and music. Mark's strength balanced Alex's elegance. When they danced, it felt like magic, like they were the only two people in the world. Off the dance floor, they were just as close. They shared inside jokes, talked for hours about everything and nothing, and knew each other's favorite snacks. Their bond was deep, built on years of shared passion and mutual respect. Alex often wondered if anyone else had a friend as good as Mark. He cherished their connection, even as a tiny, secret part of him wished for something more, a wish he quickly pushed away whenever it dared to surface. Even with the intense focus on their upcoming competition, Alex found his thoughts drifting to Mark more often than he liked. He admired everything about him. The way Mark's brow furrowed in concentration during a tricky step, the kind patience he showed when Alex stumbled, and the easy laugh that could fill the whole studio. But mostly, Alex admired Mark's kind heart. He knew it was a dangerous game, letting these feelings grow. Mark was straight. Mark had Sarah, a sweet girl who often came to watch their practices, bringing them snacks and cheering them on. Alex would smile politely at Sarah, chat about their progress, all while a quiet ache settled in his chest. He reminded himself, firmly, that Mark was his friend, his partner, and nothing more. This was a boundary he couldn't cross, for Mark's sake and his own. So, Alex worked harder to push those feelings down. He focused on the dance, on the intricate footwork, and the precise timing. He imagined the thrill of winning, the applause, anything to distract himself from the warmth that spread through him whenever Mark's hand rested on his waist or when their eyes met for a beat too long. He told himself it was just the intensity of their dance, the deep connection every good partnership needed. It had to be. He had to believe it. He couldn't risk losing Mark's friendship, not for a foolish dream that could never come true. As the competition drew nearer, their practice schedule grew intense. Mornings blurred into afternoons, and afternoons into late evenings, all spent within the mirrored walls of the dance studio. Sweat glistened on their skin, muscles ached, but neither of them complained. They pushed each other, striving for perfection in every turn, every dip, every lift. Their bodies, accustomed to each other's rhythms, moved in perfect sync, a beautiful, fluid dance that felt like one breath, one heart. During breaks, sprawled on the cool floor, they'd share stories and laughter. Mark always brought an assortment of snacks, from crunchy chips to gooey cookies, which they devoured between sips of water. Alex found himself opening up more and more, sharing dreams and worries he hadn't spoken aloud to anyone else. Mark listened, truly listened, offering thoughtful advice or simply a comforting silence. One evening, after perfecting a particularly difficult spin, Mark started talking about his family, about his hopes for the future, things Alex hadn't heard before. Alex, in turn, spoke about his journey with dance, how it helped him find himself. These deep conversations made their bond even stronger, weaving their lives together off the dance floor just as intricately as their steps on it. Alex felt closer to Mark than ever before, a closeness that both thrilled and terrified him, constantly reminding him of the feelings he tried so hard to hide. Each shared laugh, each quiet moment of understanding, only deepened the secret longing in his heart. As their practices continued, Alex started to notice subtle changes in Mark. At first, he brushed them off. Maybe he was just imagining things because of his own feelings. But the changes kept happening. Mark's gaze would linger on Alex for a moment longer than usual, a quiet, thoughtful look that made Alex's heart flutter. During a difficult lift, Mark's hand would rest on Alex's waist, and instead of moving away quickly, it would stay there for a beat, a gentle pressure that sent shivers down Alex's spine. It wasn't just during dance. Mark started texting Alex more often, not just about practice times, but about funny memes or just to ask how his day was going. He'd suggest grabbing coffee or a quick bite after their evening sessions, even if it meant being out later. One rainy Saturday, when they didn't have practice, Mark called Alex just to chat, talking for an hour about a new movie he'd seen. Alex found himself smiling into the phone, a warmth spreading through him that felt both wonderful and confusing. Mark seemed to seek out Alex's company, choosing the seat next to him during breaks or leaning in closer when they talked. These small actions chipped away at Alex's carefully built walls. He tried to tell himself it was just Mark being a good friend, that their bond was simply growing deeper because of the competition. But a tiny, hopeful voice in the back of his mind wondered if there was something more to these lingering looks and gentle touches. He tried to ignore it, but it was getting harder and harder. Even as Mark's actions became more noticeable, Alex found himself making excuses. He told himself that the competition was making Mark more intense, more focused on their partnership. Of course, Mark was touching his arm more often. They were constantly practicing holds and lifts. It was only natural that their physical connection would deepen as they worked toward a shared goal. The longer gazes? Alex decided those were just Mark being thoughtful, perhaps admiring their progress or thinking about the next step. And the extra texts, the coffee invitations, the long phone calls, that was just Mark being a good friend. They were spending so much time together. It made sense their friendship was growing even stronger. Mark was a kind person, very open and friendly with everyone. Alex was sure he wasn't special in that regard. He clung to these explanations like a lifeline. To think otherwise, to even let a flicker of hope spark, felt like a betrayal of their friendship and a dangerous path for his own heart. Mark was straight. He had a girlfriend. Alex repeated these facts to himself like a mantra, trying to drown out the small, insistent voice that whispered other possibilities. He couldn't afford to misread Mark, to invent feelings that weren't there. It would only lead to heartbreak and potentially ruin the most important friendship he had. So he smiled, he laughed, and he danced, pushing down every inconvenient thought and feeling, pretending everything was just as it always had been. One late afternoon, the studio was quiet except for the music and their breathing. They were working on the final, most romantic lift of their routine. Alex felt Mark's strong arms around his waist as he prepared to be lifted. Their bodies were pressed close, a familiar closeness that usually felt comfortable. But today, something was different. As Mark lifted Alex, holding him suspended for a long moment, their faces were inches apart. Alex could feel Mark's warm breath on his cheek, see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes. He felt a shiver, not from cold, but from something deeper. Then, Mark's breath hitched, a small, sudden sound that cut through the music. His grip tightened almost imperceptibly. Their eyes met. In that instant, the world outside the two of them faded away. The studio lights seemed to dim. The music became a faraway hum. Alex saw something in Mark's eyes he'd never seen before, a raw, searching look, full of surprise and a hint of something he dared not name. It was a look that mirrored the unspoken feelings swirling inside Alex. The air between them grew thick, heavy with emotions that hung in the silence, unsaid yet powerfully felt. Time stretched, a long, breathless moment where everything shifted. Then Mark gently lowered Alex, and they slowly pulled apart, the magic broken, but the feelings still humming in the air around them. After that powerful moment during the lift, a new quietness settled between Alex and Mark. It wasn't awkward, but thoughtful, as if they were both replaying what had just happened. Then, one evening after practice, Mark broke the silence in a surprising way. They were packing up their bags, the studio emptied of other dancers. Mark sat down on a bench, looking at his hands. "You know, Sarah and I, things aren't great," he started, his voice soft. Alex's heart gave a little thump. "We've been together for a while, and she's really sweet, but I just feel like something is missing." Alex listened, his throat tight. He wanted to offer comfort, to be a good friend, but a tiny, selfish spark of hope ignited in his chest. Mark continued, I don't know what it is. We have fun, but it's like we're on different wavelengths sometimes. There's not that deep understanding, you know? He looked up at Alex, a lost look in his eyes. A wave of guilt washed over Alex. Here was his friend, vulnerable and hurting, and Alex was secretly hoping this meant a chance for him. He forced himself to push the thought away. I'm sorry to hear that, Mark, he said, trying to keep his voice steady. Relationships can be tough. He offered gentle advice, trying to sound neutral, but inside, a quiet battle raged between his loyalty to Mark as a friend and the forbidden hope that now felt a little less impossible. The conversations about Sarah continued, leaving Alex in a strange mix of emotions. Then came an evening when practice ran extra late. The studio emptied, and the city outside was already dark and quiet. Mark offered to walk Alex home, a gesture he'd made before, but tonight it felt different. The walk was filled with comfortable silence at first. Then Mark started talking again about his confusion, his voice softer than usual. Alex kept his eyes on the pavement, trying to quell the wild flutter in his chest. When they reached Alex's apartment door, they both stopped. The porch light cast a soft glow, making Mark's face look thoughtful, almost vulnerable. Neither of them moved to say goodnight. Mark just stood there, his gaze fixed on Alex's lips. Alex's breath caught in his throat. He could feel the warmth radiating from Mark, the faint scent of his cologne. Slowly, almost like in a dream, Mark leaned in. Alex's heart pounded against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat. His eyes fluttered shut, ready, wanting. Just as their lips were about to meet, Mark abruptly pulled back. He took a quick step away, his eyes wide, looking utterly confused and a little scared. He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture. Good night, Alex, he mumbled, his voice strained, before turning quickly and almost jogging down the steps. Alex stood frozen at his door, the almost kiss burning on his lips, the confusion and fear on Mark's face replaying in his mind. The night air suddenly felt cold. Alex spent a sleepless night replaying the almost kiss, his mind a whirlwind of confusion. What had just happened? Had he imagined it? No, Mark had definitely leaned in. But then he'd pulled back, looking scared. What did it all mean? Was Mark confused about his own feelings? Or had he simply realized he was about to make a huge mistake? The uncertainty was agonizing. Alex's heart felt exposed, vulnerable in a way it hadn't been in years. He'd worked so hard to keep his feelings for Mark locked away, to protect himself from this exact kind of pain. Now, it felt like all his careful defenses were crumbling. He couldn't risk letting his heart get completely shattered. The next day at practice, Alex tried to put on a brave face, but he felt a new awkwardness between them. He made an effort to be less physically close than usual, to keep their conversation strictly about dance. He chose a seat further away during breaks, and when Mark tried to meet his gaze, Alex quickly looked down at his shoes or focused intently on a spot on the wall. It hurt to pull away, to build a small wall between them, but he felt it was the only way to shield himself. He couldn't bear the thought of another moment like last night, another glimpse of hope followed by crushing retreat. He had to protect his heart, even if it meant sacrificing a bit of the closeness he cherished with Mark. Alex's attempts to create distance didn't last long. Mark seemed to sense it, and instead of pulling away, he pushed closer. One afternoon, after Alex had deliberately kept their conversation focused on footwork for 20 minutes, Mark stopped him. Alex, can we talk? Really talk. Mark's voice was soft but firm. Alex hesitated, then nodded. They sat down on the edge of the studio floor, away from the mirrors. Mark took a deep breath. I know I messed up the other night, he began, looking directly at Alex. And I know you've been a little distant. I get it. But I need you to understand what's happening with me. He ran a hand through his hair, a familiar nervous habit. I'm so confused. Everything I thought I knew about myself, about what I want. It's all different now. Mark paused, then continued, his voice barely a whisper. I've never felt this way about anyone, Alex. Not even Sarah. It's you. I feel things for you that I don't understand. I'm attracted to you, and it's scary because I've never, ever felt this for another man before. I've always been straight. Or I thought I was. He looked at Alex, his eyes pleading for understanding. Alex's heart pounded. Mark was actually saying it. All the things Alex had only dreamed of, Mark was admitting out loud. With Mark's heartfelt confession still hanging in the air between them, the dance competition loomed closer, just a week away. The pressure to perfect every step, every turn, was immense. But the tension between Alex and Mark was even higher, a silent hum of unspoken questions and raw, new emotions. They didn't talk much about Mark's confession after that initial conversation, both seemingly unsure how to proceed. Yet, something profound shifted in their dancing. Before, their connection was about precision and partnership. Now it was infused with a deeper, more vulnerable energy. Every touch, every hold, every glance became loaded with the feelings they couldn't quite voice. When Mark's hand guided Alex, it wasn't just a technical cue. It was a gentle reassurance, a hesitant question. When Alex leaned into Mark during a dip, it was with a trust that went beyond their years of friendship, a silent plea for understanding. Their routine, already romantic, transformed. The storytelling in their movements became richer, expressing the confusion, the longing, the fear, and the undeniable pull between them. The audience would see a beautiful dance, but for Alex and Mark, each step was a whispered confession, each turn a shared breath. It was a language only they truly understood, a conversation unfolding in motion. Their dance became a living, breathing testament to the tangled emotions they were both trying to sort through, a beautiful, painful expression of their unspoken feelings. The day before the competition, Alex arrived at the studio to find Mark already there, pacing nervously. It wasn't the usual pre-competition jitters. Mark looked pale, his eyes heavy. "Alex," he started, his voice a little shaky. I broke up with Sarah." Alex froze. His mind raced, a mix of shock and a sudden, intense surge of emotion. He'd known Mark was having doubts, but he never truly imagined this. "Oh, Mark," he managed, his voice barely a whisper. "Are you okay? What happened?" Mark sat down heavily on a bench, running a hand over his face. "I wasn't fair to her, to either of us. My head's been a mess. I kept trying to pretend everything was normal, but it wasn't. It hasn't been for a while." He looked up at Alex, his eyes vulnerable. "My feelings for you, Alex, they're real, and I can't ignore them anymore. I need to figure this out for myself, and I need to explore what we could be." Alex felt a dizzying mix of emotions. Shock, yes, but beneath it, a profound relief washed over him, like a heavy weight he hadn't realized he was carrying had finally been lifted. The forbidden hope that had flickered for so long now blazed into a brilliant, terrifying flame. He could barely speak, only managing a small, shaky nod. Mark had taken a leap, and suddenly, the path ahead, once so clouded, felt frighteningly, wonderfully clear. After the initial shock of Mark's confession about Sarah, Alex found his voice. "Mark," he started, his own voice shaky. I don't even know what to say." Mark looked at him, his eyes earnest. "Just tell me what you're thinking, what you're feeling." Taking a deep breath, Alex decided to be brave. "I'm shocked, to be honest, but also incredibly relieved. I've had feelings for you for a long time, Mark. Years, actually. I never let myself think anything could come of it. You were always my straight partner, my best friend. I pushed it down hard because I didn't want to ruin what we had." A soft smile touched Mark's lips. "I think I was doing the same thing, without even knowing it. It's confusing, Alex. This is all so new for me. I'm scared, honestly. Scared of what it means, what people will think, what I even think." He paused, then looked Alex right in the eyes. "But I also know that when I'm with you, really with you, I feel more alive, more understood than with anyone else. I think I'm falling for you, Alex." Alex's breath caught. Hearing Mark say those words, the words he'd secretly longed for, felt like a dream come true. "I'm falling for you too, Mark," he whispered back, a tear escaping and tracing a path down his cheek. The fear was there, yes, but it was overshadowed by a burgeoning sense of hope and happiness. They had finally laid their hearts bare. With their hearts laid bare, a new quiet settled between Alex and Mark. But this time, it was different. It was a quiet of understanding, of shared vulnerability, and a burgeoning promise. Mark slowly reached out, his hand gently cupping Alex's cheek. His thumb brushed softly over the tear Alex hadn't even realized was there. Alex leaned into the touch, his eyes searching Mark's. There was no confusion or fear there now, only a tender, determined softness. Mark's gaze dropped to Alex's lips, a silent question passing between them. Alex nodded almost imperceptibly, his own heart thrumming with anticipation. This time, there was no hesitation. Mark leaned in slowly, giving Alex every chance to pull away, but Alex met him halfway. Their lips finally met, soft at first, then deepening with all the emotion of years of unspoken longing. It was more than just a kiss. It was a release, a confession, a promise. It tasted of relief and pure, unadulterated joy. Every single doubt, every fear Alex had harbored, melted away in that moment. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless, their foreheads resting against each other. Alex looked into Mark's eyes, seeing a future he'd never dared to dream of, a sense of destiny unfolding before them. It was the beginning of everything. The day of the competition arrived, a whirlwind of nervous energy and shimmering costumes. Backstage, Alex and Mark exchanged a quiet look, a secret understanding passing between them. The butterflies in Alex's stomach weren't just for the performance. They were for Mark, for the incredible journey they had just embarked on. When their names were called, they walked onto the brightly lit stage, hand in hand. The music swelled, and they began. Every step was perfectly placed, every turn sharp, every lift effortless. But it was more than just technique. It was the story they told with their bodies, the raw emotion pouring from them. Their eyes locked throughout the routine, a silent conversation unfolding for everyone to see. The unspoken feelings, once a source of tension, now fueled their performance with an undeniable, magnetic connection. The audience was captivated, feeling the truth in every movement. When the music faded and they struck their final pose, the applause was thunderous, a wave of sound that washed over them. They stood there, breathing hard, looking only at each other. They knew, in that moment, that they had given everything. Later, when the results were announced, Alex could barely hear over the pounding of his heart. And the winners are Alex and Mark. A roar of cheers erupted. They had won. They accepted the trophy, but as Mark's hand found Alex's, a quiet squeeze of reassurance. Alex knew the golden trophy was nothing compared to the true prize they had found, each other. Winning the competition was a thrilling moment, but it was just the beginning for Alex and Mark. Hand in hand, they stepped into a new chapter, not just as dance partners, but as a couple. Their relationship was fresh, exciting, and sometimes a little bit scary. The biggest challenge was Mark coming out. He had always seen himself as straight, and suddenly his world had shifted. It wasn't easy. He had to talk to his family, his friends, and explain feelings he was still trying to understand himself. Alex was there for him every step of the way, offering support and a listening ear. He knew how tough it was to be open about who you love, and he admired Mark's courage. They spent hours talking, not just about their feelings for each other, but about what their future together might look like. There were questions about how their dance careers would change, how their families would react, and simply, how to be a couple after being friends for so long. They learned to navigate the little bumps along the way, like deciding whose apartment to spend more time in, or how to introduce each other to new people. Every day was a discovery, a new step in their shared dance of life. It was a journey of understanding, acceptance, and a love that was growing stronger with every shared moment. Months later, life had settled into a beautiful rhythm. Mark had bravely navigated coming out, and while not every conversation was easy, he found strength in Alex's unwavering support and his own growing certainty. Their families, while surprised, had slowly begun to understand and accept their relationship. One sunny afternoon, Alex and Mark found themselves in their old dance studio. No competition loomed, no judges watched. Just the two of them, the music a soft melody playing from Mark's phone. They moved across the floor, not practicing a routine, but simply dancing for the sheer joy of it. Mark spun Alex, holding him close, their eyes filled with a peaceful happiness. Their partnership was complete in every way now. The easy camaraderie of their friendship had deepened into a tender, passionate love. When Mark dipped Alex, it was with a knowing smile, and when Alex looked up at him, his gaze was full of adoration. Every step, every turn, was a celebration of their journey. They had found love in the most unexpected place, with the person they least expected. Alex never imagined his straight dance partner would fall for him, but here they were, dancing through life, perfectly in sync, their hearts finally home. The music swelled, and they danced on, a testament to a love that had blossomed from friendship, courage, and a shared passion for movement.